You're listening to Switched On Australia, the podcast that tracks the opportunities and challenges of the renewable energy transition and electrifying everything everywhere. Switched On is proudly brought to you by Boundless Earth. Boundless Earth uses philanthropy, investment and direct advocacy to help Australia become a global force in a decarbonised world. Switched On is also brought to you by Goodwe, the all-in-one ESA battery system safely powering Aussie homes, lowering bills and providing energy independence. And Switched On is also brought to you by Amp Control, an Australian manufacturer helping to power the energy transition. Hello, I'm Anne Delaney and this is Switched On Australia. Thanks for joining me. If you've listened to Switched On before, you would have noticed that many of our How I Electrified stories feature people living in detached homes. Now, that's not because apartments don't matter, of course, quite the opposite. Millions of us live in apartments, and for many, electrifying can feel like a completely different challenge. You might have to deal with strata rules, shared infrastructure, engineering approvals, limited space, ageing switchboards, or simply someone telling you, no, it can't be done. My guest today is apartment owner Rowan Hearne, who bought a fairly typical 1980s brick unit in Canberra and set about to remove the gas, install a heat pump hot water system, dramatically improve insulation and add efficient heating and cooling. He was able to work with his strata manager and access some government support, but perhaps most significantly, he refused to accept the first no. Rowan originally made the changes while living in the apartment himself, but he's since moved to Melbourne and now rents the property out, which gives him another perspective on electrification, not just as a homeowner, but as a landlord investing in a more comfortable, efficient home for his tenants. His story won't apply to every apartment building, of course, but it does show what's possible when we're prepared to ask questions, work with a strata manager, and keep looking for solutions. Rowan Hearne, thanks so much for joining the Switched On podcast today.
Oh, nice to meet you. It's good to be here.
Rowan, tell us about the place that you bought in 2022 in Canberra. What state was it in? How was it electrification-wise? Tell me a little bit what you were faced with.
So basically, I bought a little unit in Canberra, in Belconnen, and I guess it was, built in 1986. So it was like a low-rise kind of unit complex. There's 14 units in it. Each car has its own garage. And my unit, I kind of live on the first level. I kind of access through some external stairs. And so it's like a small unit, so maybe 65 square meters or something. And big north-facing windows. There's a north-facing balcony for the living room. There's also a south-facing balcony as well next to my master bedroom as well. 2 bedrooms. And I guess when I first bought the place, thankfully there was a split system reverse cycle air conditioner in the living room. There was also on the south-facing balcony an old 1999 gas hot water system that was right next to my bedroom there. And on the balconies, so the balconies as well, they kind of jut out from the wall like a cantilever style. So everything was basically electric already. And then there were 2 things that were gas. One was just a plug-in gas unflued gas heater in the living room that I've never actually used in my life. And then also the gas hot water system, the old hot water system that I was a bit suspicious about, and it worked fine. It was very quiet, very small, but I was like, oh dear, I wonder just how long this gas hot water system will last for. So yep, that's how I found it. So everything was basically electrified except for the gas hot water system and that heater. And I was surprised too because my bills, the gas cost was pretty much similar to my electricity cost back then too, which I was surprised about for that little gas hot water system. So yeah, that's how I found it.
Yeah, right. So what first got you thinking about going fully electric, getting rid of that gas system that you had?
Yeah, that's right. So I was thinking to myself, this gas hot water system, it's cost me a lot of money, and I was like, okay, if this goes, I'm like, okay, basically, if I have to replace it in a pinch, then I can only replace it with another gas hot water system, which, well, I didn't want to do because that gas costs a lot of money,
Mm.
and because I guess I had an interest in energy efficiency, I was like, okay, how can I replace this with an electric system so that basically I can get off gas and save money. And I didn't want to replace it with just a standard electric storage system. I was like, hang on. I was thinking to myself, how can I replace this with like a whiz bang hot water heat pump that's like a quarter of the cost to run compared to
Mm.
electric storage. So I was like, okay, how can I get one of those? So that's what prompted me, and I was like, okay, I certainly want to do this before the gas hot water system dies, of course. So yeah.
Right. How old was the gas system, the gas hot water system when you moved in?
Oh, I think it was installed in 1999, so it was getting on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
still worked, of course. But yeah, once I tried to those emergency kind of the hot water runoff, I tried to loosen that one day, and I accidentally broke that, so I had to replace that. But yeah, I was at the stage I was like, okay, this hot water system, it lasted for a long time, like 24 years, but it's time that I need to think about replacing this hot water system. So
So you didn't want to be in the situation on a cold Canberra morning when the hot water ran out and you thought, I've just got to get something quickly to replace this. You wanted to be prepared, essentially.
yes, exactly right. And I mean, it was basically me and my tenant, and I'm sure I could like live for a week or two with cold water and just kind of boiling the jug, but that's not a way to live. I was like, I want continuous hot water, and I can afford that. So I was like, okay, let's do this now. I've got the time. Let's think about how I can replace this. So yeah.
So unfortunately, you actually ran into a bit of a snag early, though, in trying to get that heat pump installed, didn't you? What did the installers tell you?
Yeah, so it was interesting because I always thought of like a heat pump hot water system like the whole type, basically tank at the bottom,
Yeah.
heat pump at the top. I thought that was the only kind. So basically, when the first guy came, and his main concern was the weight of it, which is fair enough because one thing I didn't consider was that with that kind of balcony, the balcony that kind of juts out from the wall like a cantilever
Cantilevered,
style.
as you
Yeah, yeah,
said,
yeah.
yeah.
The weight of what's on the balcony is actually a major consideration. It can't be too heavy, or else that will actually like damage the property, and that will be much more expensive than the hot water system.
Yeah.
So basically, he said straight up that look, yeah, no hot water system, no heat pump hot water system for you, basically. So I was like, oh no. So basically, at that moment, I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe a heat pump is not going to be the one for me. But yeah, that was just one installer. But I was keen to get other quotes to see what they all said, whether that was the consensus, I suppose. So
And how did they differ? How did those installers, those quotes differ?
I mean, the first guy didn't even give me a quote because he was like, yeah, no, I can't.
You
You
can't
can't
do
do
it.
it. You can't do it. Basically,
But in
yeah,
terms of
yeah.
what they told you, like the information that they gave you, how did that differ?
Well, the second guy was really good because he came out, of course, and he looked at my balcony, and he came up with the solution of a heat pump where it's kind of separated, so that the hot water tank, is actually separated from the compressor, and the compressor can actually attach to the wall, so it's not even on the balcony, and just the hot water storage is actually resting on the balcony. So he came to me, and he came to me with that idea, and his quote was on par with other heat pumps. And so overall, I think I only went to two installers because the second installer had like an elegant solution, I suppose, to my
Yes.
situation. So yeah,
Yes, that would have made you very happy
yeah.
to hear that it wasn't impossible. And if you had have just stopped at that first installer, you would have thought, oh well, it's not, as you said, it's not for me.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's right. So,
So, what did you then have to do? Because you would have had to deal with strata, I would presume, to be able to put the actual tank onto the balcony.
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, of course. So I guess strata, they're concerned about the structure of the property, like the electrical system as well. So with that quote from the second installer, I was like, hey, I wrote to my strata, and I was like, yes, I'd like to install this hot water heat pump. This is how much it weighs. The tank will be on the balcony. The compressor will be on the wall. And I sent that off to my strata to see how they would respond.
Mm.
And thankfully they didn't just dismiss my idea as totally out of the ordinary. And thankfully they did respond, saying that look, I will have to go to an engineer because of the extra weight on the balcony. And so yeah, thankfully the strata were good that way, that they kind of told me what they would kind of do to give me some more information about the next steps, I suppose.
So they knew what to do. They didn't go, put their hands up in the air and go, oh, we haven't dealt with this, so no, you can't do it.
Thankfully, yes. I guess as far as I'm aware, I'm like the first unit in my unit complex. Yeah, I guess my strata managers, they may have had like similar experience in their other properties, of course. And I think
Mm.
their concern was maybe the actual structure of the property and the electrical network. So I think as long as I could kind of allay their fears there, like the structure of the property is fine, it's not going to be too heavy, and also it will kind of plug in fine. It's not going to like break the electrical capacity of my unit and other units. Then I think they would be happy.
So what did the engineers say? Did you because you actually had to reinforce that cantilevered balcony to be able to take the weight of the tank, didn't you?
Yeah, well, thankfully I didn't need to reinforce the balcony itself. I mean, that would have been a major deal.
Oh, okay.
But thankfully, the engineer just said underneath the tanks, I had to lay some kind of some steel beams just to kind of spread the load of that hot water system across more of the balcony. Of course, if you just have like one heavy weight in just one spot of the balcony, I think that I gather that's worse compared to if you just kind of spread the load over more of the balcony, because more of the balcony will kind of take that load. So yeah, thankfully the engineer just said that, and I was like, great, because then I could order the steel myself and go to my local steelworks to get those beams myself. So yeah.
Was that a cost saving move, or just easier than waiting on somebody else to go out and get the steel for you?
Oh, I guess I was kind of impatient because I was like, okay, I want to get this installed before my gas system dies. So thankfully, I could just do it all myself. I knew to myself, okay, I know what I know what kind of steel I need, and I need 3 of them. I probably got steel that was a bit too overkill, I suppose, but that's okay. I spoke to the installers as well, and they were thankfully happy to also secure the beams to the balcony. So the beams had to be like screwed into the balcony with some bolts as well, as part of installing the hot water system as well.
What advice would you give to someone who's a bit nervous about approaching their owner's corporation or their strata manager? Because a lot of strata managers, not necessarily the friendliest people to deal with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think what helped me was, well, I mean, if I just went off my own bat and said to my strata, "Hey, I want to do this," they'll be like, "Oh, what do you mean?" But I think having the quote from the installer, and I mean, I ask questions, and the installer go, "Okay, how will this work?" Okay, so attached to the wall. Okay, that works. It was good that I was able to kind of allay the fears of the strata, like off the first bat. So I guess I tried to explain, this is the weight of it, I suppose, and this is the power of the system. So it's not all that powerful, so because it's a heat pump, that kind of thing. So I think thankfully, because I had the quote and I had an idea of what I wanted to do. Then they were able to action that easily. Of course, they knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to install this particular system and do this particular thing. And then, basically they were able to go to their engineer with a very specific question. What does Rowan need to do to install this tank on this particular balcony?
You gave them the problem, but you also gave them the solution as well at the same time. It's always a good strategy, I reckon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess dealing with Strata, I guess a lot of people might not know what Strata's looking for. Perhaps ask Strata, look, I want to do this. What questions do you need from me in order to address the questions you have? I guess trying to satisfy Strata that it won't kind of impact the property, I suppose, and that kind of thing.
Rowan, you said that the compressor was near the main bedroom in your unit. Was the noise of the compressor for the heat pump a problem?
Oh, yeah, I guess that's something that I didn't consider when I first bought it. But thankfully, the installer they really recommended like the quietest kind of one on the market.
Hmm.
So yes, the compressor was right next to my bedroom. But thankfully, I think after quite a short time, like within a few weeks, I kind of got used to the low hum of it when it occasionally came on, because the compressor kind of turns on whenever the hot water just needs to get hotter. But yeah, thankfully, the I found the noise of the compressor just outside my bedroom on the balcony, yeah, quite manageable. But that is one difference I did find from the old gas system, which was pretty much silent, compared to the new kind of heat pump, which did have a compressor which did kind of whirl away.
And the specs on heat pumps, when you're buying them, you should be able to see the dB, the decibel level, shouldn't you, as far as I understand?
Yes, yep. So that's quite important. So getting a handle on the noise, the dBs, so just so that you're kind of aware of the sound it can make, so that it's not an unwelcome surprise when you're trying to sleep and you find that this kind of compressor is like really really noisy outside. So just being aware of that as well is like quite important as well.
Okay, let's take a short break and be back right after this message from one of our sponsors.
G'day, Alex Carey here. The Goodwe ESA all-in-one home storage solution is here, and it's a game changer. It's packed with market-leading features, full home backup and 6-level battery protection. With up to 48 kilowatt hours in a single stack, the ESA is a breeze to install with no gateway needed. The Goodwe ESA series is available now and priced to cover the 2026 drop in the rebate. Visit goodwe.com.au for more information.
My guest today is Rowan Hearne, who is an apartment owner in Canberra, and we're chatting about how he electrified. Now, you got your heat pump in, but
Yes.
disconnecting the gas line turned into a bit of an ordeal. Tell me about that experience.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I tried to on numerous occasions to write to my local utility to please disconnect the gas. Yeah, I don't need it anymore. And unfortunately, I lodged my request in, and they didn't give me a specific time that they would actually disconnect. So and I think to myself, okay, great, that's going to happen eventually, and then it just never did. I think I asked in the end 3 times on 3 separate occasions, like, can you please come and disconnect my gas? And just never happened. And I think on one time they tried to, find the gas meter and they couldn't, which is really strange because of course they've got to read the gas meter to find out
To
to
charge you,
charge
to
you
bill
anyway.
you.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, something happened there. But eventually, what happened was that in the ACT, if you have a dispute against your utility, you can actually lodge a complaint with ACAT, the ACT Civil Administrative Tribunal, and saying, look, with a clear request, I want this outcome. This is what's happened. This is what I've done already. And thankfully, that's what it took to disconnect my gas. And also, they waive the fee because usually there's a fee to disconnect your gas too. So yeah, thankfully, my utility kind of did that too. So.
Yeah, right. But I mean, you shouldn't have to go to ACAT to do that. How much would they have charged you to
Oh,
actually disconnect in the ACT?
I think back then, 2023 or even early 2024, between $100 or $200. So it's certainly
Okay.
not, certainly wouldn't break the bank. But yeah, certainly enough to be annoying in its own right to have to pay money to disconnect the gas, I suppose. So.
What's your advice to someone else who's stuck in the same loop with a gas company who's trying to disconnect because they've got rid of their gas appliances?
Oh, yeah. So I guess keep good records of when you've spoken to them. Perhaps your own state has their own kind of complaints process, your own kind of ombudsman or ACAT version that you can kind of appeal to see if you can kind of resolve your kind of issue with your utilities. But yeah, hopefully my experience won't be replicated by many other people.
Well, what do you think your experience with the gas company and trying to disconnect tells us about the way our energy systems are still set up?
Oh, I like to think that everyone's trying the best they can, I suppose. But I guess perhaps the it means that the default pretty much is to keep the status quo, I suppose. And it definitely takes energy and effort to get off the system, I suppose. Maybe that's what it means. It means that the status quo is staying connected to gas if you're already on it. perhaps if there was another way where you actually had to opt in to remain on gas in the future, maybe that could be an idea to cause people to think, oh, hang on, do I actually need gas in the future?
Now, you didn't stop at just replacing your gas appliances. You also wanted to improve the building itself. Tell me why insulation was your next priority.
Oh, well, I guess my unit, the ceiling above my unit, because I had access to the attic, I knew that the insulation was quite old, but also in the ACT there was the sustainable household scheme. So I was like, oh, what else could I kind of do to my property to help improve it, to make it more comfortable? That I could also get a loan with that scheme to make it more comfortable. And one of the options was kind of boosting up the ceiling insulation. And also, I knew that that would help because in the ACT, there are requirements about the minimum level of ceiling insulation if you want to kind of rent out your unit as well. And because of those factors, I was like, okay, I reckon actually boosting up the ceiling insulation could actually be a good idea. It could be more, it could be cost effective as well. And so that was my next option to help my place be just a little bit more comfortable.
You actually wanted to insulate the walls, but couldn't do that. Why was that?
Oh, that's right. I called the installers over to see if I can insulate the walls with like some blow-in insulation, and I think they're kind of patience with me because because they came over and they looked into the wall the wall cavity, and apparently I couldn't easily do that because in my unit there's a sheer drop all the way down the wall between my wall and the ground floor. So it's not possible just to insulate my walls. I could only do it if like the ground floor unit also kind of insulated their walls, and they can kind of top it up all the way up to the top of my walls. And so I had ideas of whether I could kind of spruik my neighbours down below to see if they'll be interested, but unfortunately had no buy-in there. So
Damn. Maybe in the future.
maybe.
Tell me what difference it's made to the comfort of the apartment, that extra ceiling insurance, especially dealing with your cold Canberra winters that you get down there.
Yeah, I reckon it's made a few changes. So for one, maybe the unit kind of heats up a bit quicker because the heat isn't trying to leave the unit, when I'm trying to heat it up. So there's one aspect. Perhaps the split system works a little bit less hard as well. And then also, of course, when I turn it off, my unit kind of cools down a bit slower as well. So I guess all those things kind of together just make my home just a little bit more comfortable as well. So I think overall it's been a good thing, and particularly in the bedrooms. So the bedrooms didn't have any kind of heating. Just if you wanted heating, you just basically use your own column heaters. And so any extra kind of insulation there, of course, made it just a bit more comfortable when you're using like those small kind of portable column heaters that I had for a long time.
And you went with a multi-head reverse cycle system for the bedrooms, didn't you? So the compressor, did that end up on the same balcony as the hot water unit?
Yeah, exactly right. So now that south-facing balcony has a lot of lots of plant in it. So
I was going to say,
that's
is it a bit chockers now?
Yeah, it's I suppose. I suppose it's a bit chockers now. But thankfully, there's room out there, and also when I live there, I didn't go out to the south-facing balcony too much, I suppose. Usually it's the north-facing balcony, which is the
I was
nice
going to say,
one.
if you've got a north-facing balcony, you're going to choose that, aren't you, over the south-facing?
Yeah.
Unless
That's
it's a
right.
really hot Canberra day.
Yes, yep, that's right. Yeah, and also the south-facing balcony does look over some bush as well. So where I live, it's like got lots of bush around. So it's certainly not like buildings everywhere. So it's got a good outlook as well.
So, Rowan, all up, how much did this cost you, and how did you finance it?
Oh, so I guess I'm paying off the loan to the government, but I think overall everything together. So the three things: so hot water system, ceiling insulation, and then also the new air conditioner in the bedrooms. I think that was a touch over three. So it's $3,500, and I'm paying that off over between 8 to 10 years. So overall, I think the outlay was actually very small because I just got the zero interest loans. But basically all those three things, my little unit, were $13,500.
Right. And as you said, you actually got a zero interest loan. And
Yep.
so that's the ACT Sustainable Household Scheme.
Yes.
The loan.
Yeah.
Was that easy to access, operate? What was the application process like?
Yeah. Thankfully, it was easy to apply, and unfortunately, I don't think it's zero interest still for the ACT. I think there's like a small interest rate, but yeah, thankfully, I remember that there's part of the process is that they see whether you're a good kind of borrower, that
Yeah.
credit rating, that kind of thing. Basically, they've got like some approved installers, and you get quotes from them, and the installers actually, I think, apply for the loan on your behalf, and then the lender basically kind of pays them straight away. The process was good, and I'd certainly kind of use it again myself, so.
If those loans hadn't existed, would you have done the project?
Oh, um, perhaps, yeah, certainly the hot water system. I mean, that was quite important, but perhaps not the last one, which is the reverse cycle air conditioner for the bedrooms. Maybe not that, but I think overall the loan has certainly helped me to do things and make the place more comfortable, more so than I would have done if I was just paying for everything kind of outright at the beginning, I suppose. So.
You avoided a switchboard upgrade. How much of that was luck versus a deliberate choice of appliances, etc.?
Oh, I think that was quite lucky. I think the switchboard is still the original type, so from the 80s, and thankfully there were like two kind of free slots that I could kind of plug into, and yeah, the electricians were able to put the hot water system into one slot, and then also the new air conditioner into the other slot, and the capacity of the electrical network for the unit complex, I don't think there have been any problems. Of course, the overall like the power draw of the hot water system and the new air conditioner is like overall quite manageable, I suppose. Thankfully, I was able to still use the existing kind of electrical network.
Now, Ron, you did all of this while you were living in the apartment, but you're actually not living in Canberra anymore. You've moved to Melbourne, so you're managing this place as a landlord.
Yes.
How has that changed your approach to the apartment? Has it?
Ooh, I guess I was glad that I was able to do all these changes when I was living there, because it was much easier to like get installers in and show them around, that kind of thing. I guess now being a landlord, I'm more focused on like maintain the place so that my tenants are happy, I suppose. So I guess it's more about making sure your tenants are happy, and I respond to their feedback, I suppose. And I'm less likely to just do things just off the bat, unless there's like a clear need for my tenants, I suppose. Living there, you've very much got what you want to do to the property, versus you got tenants, which is very much maintain the place. I guess everything keeps running smoothly, I suppose. So.
And have you perceived that you've got some benefits from an investment point of view? You talked about happier tenants, perhaps, but lower maintenance, or even making the property more valuable or more attractive for renters?
Well, potentially down the track. I think I guess my tenants are happy. They certainly want to stay there, and that's good for me too. Having kind of dependable tenants, and of course down the track, if I were to rent out again, or if I were to sell, I'm sure that other people who kind of like comfortable places to live, energy efficiency, will kind of appreciate the kind of the changes that I've made over time as well.
Hey, now, you're on the owners' corporation still of your Canberra unit,
Mm.
and I understand the complex is grappling with EV charging. Where's that
Mm.
conversation at, and what's proving to be the challenges there?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we're aware that more people are driving EVs, and more people are more likely to park and charge their EV cars at home. And the issue that we have is that our garages, some of them have like these common power points that use the common electricity. And one thing we're thinking is that, okay, if we have these common power points, then there's nothing to stop EV owners kind of charging their car overnight, trickle charging,
Yes.
using the existing power points, using the commons power, which everyone in the unit kind of pays for, I suppose. One solution, of course, is to remove all the power points, but I mean that wouldn't be nice, I suppose.
No, because you'll eventually have to put them back, probably.
Yeah, that's right. But also, we're aware I'm aware that there are companies out there. One example is like Ready Steady Plug, where you can use the existing network and then have it so that EV owners do at least pay for their own electricity that they use, I suppose. So there are ideas there. Things that we need to consider as a owners corporation about how do we manage this issue of EV owners kind of charging using our old kind of 80s garages, power points, and network in our unit complex. And we're quite a small kind of unit complex too, so 14 units. So we've got to think to ourselves, okay, what's cost effective? What can we afford? In amongst all the other priorities about what we want to do for the unit complex too. So,
Just a final question, Rowan. If someone listening lives in an apartment and thinks electrification is just too hard, what's the one thing you'd like them to take away from your experience?
yeah, I guess my takeaway is to at least look and find out what your options are. For example, if I just assumed that I just couldn't get a heat pump hot water system, for example, then of course I would have just replaced it maybe with a gas one or whatever. But at least find what your options are. If you have got a friend or installers who can kind of give you advice about what's possible. And I appreciate, in some cases it's really hard to make change. For example, lots of unit owners have like a centralized boiler for all the hot water, so that's really challenging. But if you find what other options you can do, and change things here, change things there, see what you can do, and I'm sure over time with just a few changes, it can add up to something that's quite meaningful, I suppose. So at least find your options and see what's possible.
And that option of splitting the compressor and the tank for your hot water, I think, is a really good one that apartments probably need to look into.
Yes.
Rowan Hearne, thank you so much for joining the Switched On podcast today.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
And that was Rowan Hearne describing how he fully electrified his 1980s Canberra apartment. Next week, I'll have more on apartment electrification, but from the other side of the table. Ash Sayers runs a strata owners corporation that manages around 300 owners corporations in Melbourne. And we'll hear how strata managers are often seen as the biggest barrier to apartment electrification, but could become one of its biggest enablers. I'm Anne Delaney, and I'll see you then. Switched On Australia was proudly brought to you by Amp Control, an Australian manufacturer combining engineering expertise, electrical solutions and innovative technologies to enable Australia's energy future. Switched On Australia is also proudly brought to you by Boundless Earth. Boundless Earth uses philanthropy, investment and direct advocacy to help Australia become a global force in a decarbonised world. And Switched On Australia was also brought to you by GoodWe. GoodWe's all-in-one ESA home battery helps Australians store more of their own solar energy and rely less on the grid. With strong local support and technology already trusted in thousands of homes, GoodWe is making the switch to electrification simpler and more affordable. GoodWe is proud to work with Australian cricketer and GoodWe ambassador Alex Carey. Find out more at goodwe.com.au.